Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Corey Easley, and I'm here with your hosts,
Gab
and Dylan.
And today we're going to be talking about a movie that I believe is a movie to watch before you die. We're talking about Into the Spider-Verse.
That was great.
That was honestly, that's better than 90% of the time when I do it.
Oh, come on.
Also, we rehearsed it a couple of seconds ago, and I was not feeling like it was promising. That was great.
I do
Well,
this
that didn't
thing
need to be said.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
You're great. That was great. Yeah, we're talking about a movie that Corey picked this week. One that for a long time I had been bugging Corey, like, you got to pick a movie. I want you to come on the podcast. I want you to do an episode. And for a little while, we toyed with Wedding Crashers. We toyed with Rush Hour. But one day you were like legitimately talking to me about how much you love Into the Spider-Verse. And it was like, this has to be the movie you talk about.
I will say, based on the fact that the last episode that came out, when we're recording this, the last episode that came out was Your Name, in which Gab admitted that she hates animation. She's previously admitted that she doesn't like superhero films. So I'm like, you have picked a movie which is already way behind her 8 ball.
Yeah. And wait till we start talking about it.
Okay. Should we tell the people why they're listening to us?
Yeah. So we'll tell them briefly. So I am a former actor. I have a degree in performance. I am masterful in the art of character development, script analysis, and plot devices. And Dylan?
I have a degree in film, video, and media. I am a former video editor, and I am a master debater.
We change that up a little bit every time. I hope people aren't like tallying.
It's all lies anyway. I've never even seen a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't actually watch any of these movies we talk about.
Don't believe in
and
the
Corey,
movie pictures.
Corey, briefly, why are people listening to you?
Well, because I am strong in my convictions.
That's true.
And that's about it. I did a little, I went to acting class in college once.
Yeah.
I did some improv. I actually did stand-up comedy actually for a couple of years, but that doesn't really have anything to do with movies. I just like to talk.
And you love superheroes.
Oh, I do love superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a fan of anime. I love cartoons. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, Dylan, before we get into the Spider-Verse, at the time that this podcast is being recorded, we are currently in the midst of I would say a global crisis, I guess, with this Titanic submersive, the Explorer trip all going south, and these 5 people being in a tin can at the bottom of the ocean running out of oxygen. So I have 2 questions for you, but first I feel like you have something to say.
Yeah, that is not what I thought you were about to connect our movie-based podcast to. I was like, global crisis. Is she going to be talking about like the Flash box office bombing? Like,
no.
Okay.
No, but in a similar vein, 2 questions for you. Number 1, which superhero do you believe could rescue the submersive trapped at the bottom of the ocean?
I mean, this is the one time Aquaman has to shine. This is his
That's
moment.
what I said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He comes off the bench for this one.
This is the one time where he's like, oh my God, it's in the water for real, guys. Like, oh my God. Like,
but here was the question that I asked Corey earlier today.
Mhm.
Do you think that Aquaman, like if Aquaman said to Spider-Man, can I borrow your little bracelets with the webs?
oh my God, web shooters, Gab. Web shooters.
Sorry. Pardon me. Web shooters. Do you think that they would be strong enough and or water resistant enough to get the submersive from the bottom of the ocean?
Are you asking
No.
him?
Well, I already asked you, but I would like to hear your answer. So
I'm
Dylan
no
says
kind
no.
of
Do you want to
engineer or
expand?
nothing, but yeah, like it's the same method of firing guns underwater. It's just not going to have the velocity to be able to be as effective as you would want it to be.
Oh, interesting, because
That's a good answer. No, what I said was it was hard for me to get past the fact that Aquaman is from the DC universe and Spider-Man is from the Marvel universe, so I don't know how that would happen. But if it did happen, I feel like Peter Parker would. I mean, it's fake, right? So I feel like he would invent something to make it work underwater. You know what I mean? Like he invented the web shooters.
I know, like, I used to watch the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s too, because I feel like I watched every superhero cartoon in the 90s. And I know that there were times where he would be in the water, but there wasn't any sort of spider boat or anything like that. He had one like thing I think that he could use to help him breathe in the water, but there were no deep sea missions for Spider-Man. So I think that he
Yeah,
would be like,
stayed out of it.
you take this one, Aquaman.
Yeah. Well, good for Jason Momoa, I guess. Second question. What's the closest you've ever come to shitting your pants?
The
As an
closest
adult?
I've ever come to shitting my pants, because I have shit my pants. Like,
Well,
I'll
even
be
better.
real.
Then that's the closest. Tell us the story.
No, do I have to?
I mean, why not?
The closest story is one time I thought I was gonna fart and I didn't. Like, there
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
fair.
Yeah.
That's
Those
fair.
parts are dangerous. Once I was watching Even Stevens and I had my feet up on the dresser and I thought it was a fart. I was like 16 and it wasn't, but I was home. So I just walked down the hallway and took care of it.
Oh my god, that's bringing back memory of one time I probably was around the same age or maybe a little bit younger even. And I was on my brother's bed and he was tickling me and I went, stop.
He tickled the shit
I was
out
just
of
like, and it's happened. He was very good about it. I don't think he's ever brought it up since, maybe once or twice, but like, I'm surprised that's not something that he brings up every day of our lives.
Wow. That's actually good for Zach that in that moment when it actually happened, he was good about it.
That's nice of him.
Yeah. Good on him.
Yes, good on him. That was not why is that the follow? Do you think they're all shitting themselves in the sub? Is that why?
Well, here's the thing. First, I imagined them all being in this tin can, counting the moments until they suffocate to death. And I thought, oh my God, they must be all freaking out and shitting themselves. But then I read something about how one of the guys on the boat, or the submersive, excuse me, is a like deep sea dive specialist or some kind of like crisis management specialist. So he, per the people on land who are, analyzing this, is probably keeping them all very calm, because the calmer you are, the less oxygen you use, the longer they can last. So then I thought, all right, they're probably like not shitting themselves. But then I thought, I mean, it's been days. Like, human biology tells us that whether they're scared or calm, they are shitting themselves.
There's a bathroom on there, I think.
There's a plastic bottle.
I was gonna say it's basically like a bucket that they're just pooping into. So it probably smells rank in there by this point, but
yeah.
If it's just been
Anyway,
2 days and people haven't showered in 2 days, that's probably rank anyway.
Yeah. Well, by the time this episode airs, I'm sure hopefully we'll have some kind of answer. I'm obsessed. I can't stop. So I won't go on any longer. But anyway.
I've been much more into The Flash, so that's why I was thinking that, I guess.
Yeah. Talk about another crisis. All right. Well, who is going to tell the people you can't, because you've read the IMDb plot summary, but so would you like to try to describe it?
Oh, I think the obvious person
like...
to tell us what Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is about is Corey, since he's the guest. But I feel like he was about to suggest Gab.
I was going to suggest you because, like, I know how much I love this movie and I've seen it a bunch of times and we watched it together. I've been trying to talk you into watching it for a while. So I feel like you should describe what this movie is about.
Okay, I will.
Had you not seen this movie before, Gab? Was
No.
this your first time?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, then I do feel like, as the person who hadn't seen the movie at all, because I've seen this before also, it does make sense for you to be the one to tell us, what is this movie about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
I thought I was off the hook this week. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is about a young man named Miles Morales who lives in New York City, Brooklyn, excuse me, to be specific. He is kind of being forced by his parents to do and be someone that he doesn't necessarily want to be. He idolizes an uncle of his who is maybe a little problematic. Problematic is the wrong word, but I feel like I'm off the rails. Can I start again? I'd like to start again. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is about a young man named Miles Morales who lives in Brooklyn, who is bitten by a radioactive spider and becomes Spider-Man. Except Spider-Man is also dead, and there's also multiple universes, and I don't really understand the multiple universes thing entirely, but there's many a spider person, and they work together to beat the bad guys.
Corey, you'll let me know how you think that was. I gotta tell you, it's really nice to see Gab botch one when I feel like normally I do.
It was in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I give it like a C+.
I'll take it. Why don't you tell us what IMDb has to say?
The IMDb plot summary is: teen Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his universe and must join with 5 spider-powered individuals from other dimensions to stop a threat for all realities.
Okay, hold up. the Spider-Man in his universe already exists. He dies.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why he becomes the Spider-Man in his universe, because there is no Spider-Man at that point.
Oh, because he's dead?
Yeah, he's now you know what I mean?
He is Spider-Man now.
So let me ask you this. If Spider-Man didn't die and everything else went on the same and he got bitten by that spider, he wouldn't have turned into Spider-Man?
He
No,
would
they'd
have
both
both
be
turned into
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. They would just both be Spider-Man.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Okay. All right. That's fine. Okay.
Do you want to hear
Answered
the
my
taglines?
question. Yes.
Okay.
Are they good?
They're not the worst. They're better than like classic kids movies like You Won't Believe This Movie that could somehow fit into a theater.
The movie's so big. Yeah. Go ahead.
Which now has become like my favorite tagline for some reason. I just keep thinking that for every movie. I'm like just imagining the most serious movies possible, like women talking. Somehow they fit into a theater. You know what I mean? Like I'm picturing very
Yeah,
independent movies with that.
Schindler's List.
Oh my god.
Movie so big. A list so long.
Okay, so 2 taglines. Enter a universe where more than one wears the mask.
Okay. That would have explained it to me much better.
There you go. What makes you different is what makes you Spider-Man.
Oh,
That's
I like
nice.
that. That's nice.
I also feel like the obvious one, which is sort of like the first one, would have just been anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah.
Yes, which they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they make a point of emphasizing that. So I'm a little
Yeah.
surprised that they don't just use that.
Cool. All right. So before we get any deeper, do we want to give a little bit more plot outline, or do we want to just dive into opinion time?
Well, that's up to you guys, because I feel like if anybody's going to give us the more spoiler-filled version of the plotline, it would be you, Corey. Do you
It
want
would
to
be
do
me.
that?
It would. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many.
Well, just give like a basic overview. If you had to tell me in like 3 minutes what happens, what would you tell me?
Okay, in the beginning of the movie, Miles Morales is getting ready for school. He's having a normal day, and you feel the chaos of getting ready for school with everything in the house, and the parents are getting ready for work, and he's getting ready for school, and they're making sure he's getting out for school on time. And then fast forward, he goes through his day. They do like a montage of going through a school day and homework assignments and all this, and then he has an evening where he's got like this assignment due, and he goes to visit his uncle, and he shows him this mural he painted. That's
Corey,
like
I gotta tell you, this is not the 3-minute version.
Yeah. It's not. I'm trying to.
It's okay.
I'm just not. I'm long-winded. So, then, he gets bitten by a radioactive spider. He stumbles upon this thing where the bad guys are messing with the time-space continuum, and all these universes collide. Spider-Man is killed in the process of trying to save the city. Spider-Man in his dimension, and then, but also when all these universes collide, all these other spider people end up in his universe. They all come together and work together to get shit back to normal.
There we go. You got in the fast lane at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Do you want to
feel
add
like
anything?
the only things that I would add are specifically like we get Kingpin is our bad guy with the collider that he is trying to use, which I do feel like Kingpin is not very important in this movie, but I do feel like even for not being that important as just sort of, a filler type villain, they do a nice job of giving him a motivation that makes sense too, that he's trying to bring
Yeah.
back his family
Mhm.
from an alternate reality. Spider-Man gets shoved into the collider, which instead brings a bunch of Spider-Men.
Yeah.
Which we can get into, I guess, the various Spider-Men and talk about them more in our opinions, I suppose. But
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of rattle them off now.
well, my favorite 2 are definitely Spider-Ham,
Of
voiced by
course.
John Mulaney, who is
So
very
good.
Looney Tunes-esque,
Yep.
and Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir.
Yep, absolutely.
Which
I
he
didn't
hardly says anything.
understand. Yeah, but it's funny because when he came on screen, Corey's like, you know who that is? And I was like, what? I don't know. And then all of a sudden the ham started talking. I was like, it's John Mulaney.
Oh, I thought you meant with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, no. Well, originally that's what he was excited to see if I would recognize Nicolas Cage, but I kind of didn't really notice. But then afterward, I was like, I love Nicolas Cage. This is great.
I just need to find a way now to just have him screaming, I'm a Spider-Man! I'm a Spider-Man!
Yes. Yeah. I didn't really understand the situation with the the girl and the robot. Like the robot was the spider person, but she was controlling it. Like what?
They explain it very briefly, I think. I think the robot, it's a very anime type story where like the robot has the trapped soul of her like father in it or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And they are both the spider, like together, that is the spider person of the universe that she comes from, where she uses the mech, which there was a Japanese Spider-Man, like it was licensed to Japan and they made Japanese movies of Spider-Man or a Japanese show Spider-Man, I think in the 70s. And for some reason he did have like a Gundam style mech suit because it's Japan, I guess. They were like, this is what we're doing.
Let me tell you this. I
mhm.
didn't know that Stan Lee was not Asian.
Are you serious?
She didn't know that.
I am so dead serious. When he died, I still didn't know. Like it's more recently than his death. I think and listen, obviously Stan Lee, like okay, whatever, but just like by the looks of him, I thought, oh, that's cool. Yeah, like it makes sense. He,
Maybe you don't
It's
dislike
Asian.
comic book movies. Maybe you've just never seen one because the man appeared in almost every single one
Yeah, he's
and
in
is a
every movie.
very white motherfucker.
But I just told you I have seen photos of him and still did not realize he wasn't Asian.
Okay.
It blows my mind, actually.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Let me tell you, I saw Iron Man in theaters. I saw the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in theaters, which by the way, I said to Corey when we were watching this, I think Tobey Maguire was like such a sad boy Spider-Man. He was so like, oh, my life is hard. Like I thought Spider-Man was kind of a bitch because of him.
I mean, his life is hard. He's a teenager who's
Spider-Man's
a
life is really
loser,
hard.
and he is mutating into another thing.
Yeah, but the Spider-Man depicted in this movie like was like cool and quippy and
Well,
like
he was in his 30s by now.
He's figured it out. Yeah.
oh, see, I can't keep up with the shit. It's like a soap opera.
Well, no, because he goes through the whole story and tells how he got married, got divorced, became Spider-Man. He became Spider-Man when he was like 15. By this point, he's in his 30s. He had the belly now, and he's like kind of jaded, and he's kind of, he's seen a lot.
Yeah,
They give a whole spiel. He's been married. He's now divorced. Yeah.
yeah,
Peter B. Parker.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a lot. It's a lot of exposition. It's a lot of backstory. It's a lot of like, oh God, it's like it literally feels like those people that love like the Real Housewives, and that these women have just had their lives on television for like 13 years, and it's very hard to just like dive in because you're like, I don't know what you're talking. I don't know all these people. I don't understand how you became this person. That's kind of how superhero movies feel to me.
Well, speaking of diving in, Gab, that sounded like an opinion. So is this opinion time?
It's opinion time. Let's go.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I do feel like there's a lot of exposition, but there's a lot of exposition only really about two things: to make you, one, understand Miles, because he's really the focus of the movie, because you should understand who we've had like 1,000 Spider-Man, it feels like. You know what I mean? Tobey Maguire,
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. That's been a lot of Spider-Man in the past 20 years. So they're not really explaining the Spider-Man origin to you. You should know by now, like with great power comes great responsibility. His uncle's dead. Peter Parker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only things that I feel like they really are explaining to you are the character of Miles and the concept of the multiverse, which is funny because now it feels like everything is the multiverse. Like,
Yeah.
we were mentioning it before. The Flash is about the multiverse. Across the Spider-Verse came out a few weeks ago. That's about the multiverse. I feel like Spider-Man No Way Home involved the multiverse. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's a very oh my god!
Even Dragon Ball Super had a multiverse situation.
Everything
has
Ever All
the
at Once. That's the one I couldn't think of. That's also a multiverse situation.
I'm still like kind of wrapping my head around this multiverse thing. Yeah, I personally, if it's okay, I would really like for Corey to give a little bit of insight into this, because I think the reason that I was like, you need to come on and talk about this movie is his opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this movie was just really important. And for me growing up, all the superheroes that I ever saw, I watched X-Men and Spider-Man on the cartoons on Fox 5 and all that, and all the superheroes I watched were like these white dudes. And I saw a kid that looked like me being Spider-Man, but it wasn't done in like a heavy-handed, look at this black Spider-Man kind of way. It was like, no, Peter Parker exists, and I love Peter Parker. Like, he was my favorite growing up, but it was like, look at this kid, he can wear the mask, he can be the hero too. It's in New York, number one, so anything in New York, always, like, I love it, obviously, like being born and raised here. And I also I thought it was really important that the father was such, like, his relationship with his father, because it's just like, it just wasn't really portrayed like that my whole life. Like, seeing like this black father caring about his son and having this kind of relationship and wanting him to succeed and be the best he could be, like,
and being very like vulnerable,
and being very vulnerable, and also he was a police officer, which is another thing too. It's like, you don't really look at the cops like that. You wish that the cops would be like this dude, and another thing too, like, just, it wasn't all, look how badass Spider-Man is. I think from a vulnerability standpoint, looking at this, like, Peter B. Parker tell the story about how, like, yeah, I'm Spider-Man, like, that's cool, but like, look at him. He's kind of just been through a lot, and he's able to show, like, you see the vulnerability of Spider-Man, but you also see, like, he's able to overcome. And I love the whole thing that they kept drilling of, I fall down and I just keep getting up. I just always get back up, like, and I loved that. And it just, like, you get really emotional. I think this movie made me feel so many things. Even when we watched it again the other day, like, I felt really, like, I just felt like I went through it. Like, I laughed. That, like, there's so many funny moments. There's so many, like, heart-wrenching it's got everything in it. But to me, the most important thing was watching Spider-Man be like a guy that looked like me, that, like, I could relate to as a young boy. Like, the young boy version of myself needed that movie.
I do think it's a really cool thing, and I do feel like it's. Have you guys heard the term legacy character?
Yeah, but explain.
So the best example I can think of is The Flash. The Flash, the very first version, is Barry Allen. Nobody really cares about The Flash, though. So there's another version of The Flash named Wally West that people probably just, like, don't even notice that, there's two different versions. I think something that's really cool is that Miles Morales, basically, I feel like because of the success of these two movies more than anything, has become a character that first started, I think, in like 2011. Like, he's new and has pretty much been elevated to, when you think of Spider-Man, there are people out there now, there's definitely young kids like you're talking about, Corey, who are like, oh yeah, my Spider-Man's Miles Morales. And I do think that that's really cool, because it's perfectly valid for there to be another Spider-Man. And it's honestly really cool that we do have a separate version of Spider-Man. Like,
it's totally cool. And sorry, I just want to piggyback off what you said.
No, go ahead.
Like, but there's a Spider-Woman. And like, there's like, I read one of the Marvel events, and it was like with who's the guy, Dr. Doom, and he did something where it was with the multiverse. I forgot what it was, but Peter Parker showed up with Miles Morales. Like, they show up together, and I'm like, he's just really just he's part of it now. Like, he's really in it. And they didn't have to take Peter Parker away from us. Like, I read this Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe thing one time, and it's obviously not a real, like, side story, but Deadpool's like, I killed their beloved Spider-Man. It's like, yeah, their beloved Spider-Man. People love Spider-Man, right? And you don't have to lose Peter Parker to have a Miles Morales.
No, and I think there are some, like, I spend enough time on Twitter that I see way too many people who are like so fucking stupid that are like, well, how can Miles be Spider-Man if Peter's Spider-Man? And it's like, oh my God, who the hell cares? There's been 700 characters that are the Green Lantern. There's been different people who've even been Batman at times. Like, I know we all think of Batman as being Bruce Wayne. Batman's been Terry McGinnis. Batman's been Tim Drake. Batman's been Dick Grayson. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the mantle.
Yes. And that is always like the main thing. Even Superman now, there's I think the current Superman in comics is Superman's son, Jonathan Kent.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a thing, and I'm being dead serious, wasn't there something about Superman like being gay or bisexual or something?
Superman's son, Jonathan Kent, is gay in the comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Yeah. Like, but I think that's cool. And I'm sure it pissed a lot of people off, but I think like representation is really important. And it's funny because you hear that phrase all the time, but really the first time that you said that to me, where you were like, the little boy in me was so happy to see a superhero that looked like me. It made me think of when I went with my family to see the new Star Wars movies, because I've always been such a big Star Wars person. And Rey was not just like a strong female character, but like a Jedi, like becoming a Jedi. And it like something in me was so completely moved by the thought of, because obviously we had Princess Leia and she was a badass and she had her blaster and she wasn't taking shit from nobody, but like that's not being a Jedi.
Right.
You know?
But
it makes me think of oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It makes me think of Wonder Woman too. That came out a few years ago, and people were like, finally, you know, a good solo female superhero movie. And it was like, sure, you've had Black Widow, but she's part of the Avengers and she's not the main focus. And, you know, I don't think that's like a great movie or anything. And I could go on for a while about what I think of her as an actress, but I get that first, you know, for little girls, it's amazing to have a solo movie about a woman superhero. You know what I mean? Same thing with Captain Marvel. And it's like, it doesn't hurt anyone else for these things to happen. That's what I never get. Like for people who people were upset about Superman being gay, and I'm sure those people didn't even realize it's not even Clark Kent. Like
it's not even Clark Kent.
Yeah.
It's people who don't pay attention to these things anyway. You know what I mean? It's usually people who are like too stupid to even like take the time to realize that what they think is being affected isn't being affected. And even if it was, who cares? You have decades and decades of stories where that didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always just feel like it's like I don't need a black Bruce Wayne. Let Bruce Wayne, like I grew up with Bruce Wayne being who Bruce Wayne is. I talk about Batman every day of my life. I grew up with Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne. But if whoever's wearing the mask and the cowl and the you know, doing what he like continuing on his legacy, like, yeah, cool. Like Captain America, right? Somebody's gonna take up the mantle. Steve Rogers is not going to be alive forever. Look at Thor. Natalie Portman became Thor. You know?
Gav looked so shocked when you just said that. And I'm like, you know, it was a big thing in the comics. The Mighty Thor was Jane Foster. So I knew about that years ago, but I guess it came out last year. So
yeah,
not really a spoiler by this point, but yeah, in Thor Love and Thunder, Natalie Portman came back as Thor.
Yeah.
She was Jack too.
That's awesome.
The movie sucked.
Her husband
so
cheated on
bad.
her.
It wasn't great. But what you know, what I'm saying is I think Into the Spider-Verse was it had everything in it. I mean, there were so many funny moments too. Like even with like the John Mulaney Peter Porker, like
so good.
When he was like, that's all folks. He goes, can he say that legally?
I had that written down, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently also, you know how he has that moment where he's like, it's another really good quote where it's like the one line he has that's not funny that says something about, that's the tough part about this job, Miles. We can't save everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they cut it down to just that because they're all talking about, for me, it was my Uncle Ben, my Uncle Benjamin, my best friend. He goes on, like, apparently they cut out him talking about his uncle being turned into, Uncle Frank being turned into a Frankfurter, I guess, or something like that. And I'm like, I could see why they were like, maybe let's give it a beat.
Yeah, this isn't the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I do think there is a, you know, I think that this movie is mostly really funny and it looks beautiful. I do think if there is a moment that there's two moments, I guess I would say that if or any that I feel something really deeply emotionally from. One is his dad talking to him at the door when he, you know, can't talk back and just pouring his heart out, I guess, about everything that's happened. And the other is his uncle Aaron, when he finally realizes that, you know, I guess spoilers, but we already said spoilers. When you realize that Uncle Aaron is the Prowler and he sees Miles and Miles reveals that he's him, you get this moment of, I'm trying to remember what the exact words were that he said. He doesn't say like, I didn't want you to see me like this, but he says something like that, that I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, My Uncle Aaron, he's the Prowler. He works for Kingpin. He tried to kill me. And I love Nicolas Cage going, that's a pretty hardcore origin story.
Yeah.
I wanted you to look up to me. I let you down, man. I let you down. And when he says that, I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's too much child-friendly superhero movie. Don't hit me with that.
Yeah.
That's probably just
Yeah.
aided by the fact that Mahershala Ali is really fucking good. That like just
Oh,
with his
yeah.
voice, he conveys so much.
Oh, so good.
I feel like I
Really
wrote down a
great
lot of
cast.
quotes though.
Yeah, there's a lot of quotes in here. Well, do you have anything specifically, like opinion-wise, that you'd like to say?
I don't feel like I have anything super important opinion-wise to say, other than just like style-wise. I think that this movie's incredible. Like, this is one of those few movies, we've talked about a few animated movies by this point, and the one that my brain is going back to immediately is Recess School's Out, because you did not like Recess School's Out.
Listener, could you hear my eyes rolling into the back of my skull?
They could not, but I felt it. In Recess School's Out, there are moments where the animation does not look great. That is fair. There is no moment of this movie that if you pause it, you're going to think, oh, that doesn't look very good. If you pause this movie on any single fucking frame, it looks like a work of art.
Yeah.
That's my big opinion out of all of this.
Yeah. All right. Well, here I go.
Oh boy.
I probably in a million years, if Corey had not said what he said to me one day in passing about how important this movie was to him, I don't think I ever would have agreed to watch it. I think I would have been not necessarily against it for any reason other than I just don't really like animated movies and I don't like superhero movies. And so the thought of combining them both would have been like wouldn't you rather just do, something else? Let's watch that next weekend. Let's do something different today. But because it was
So
for the
now
podcast,
when Gab says that, she's saying, I'm not going to ever fucking watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Don't get your hopes up. But something about the way that he described specifically it being something important to him when he was a little boy and kind of like needing that really set something off in me. And maybe it's the years of therapy and hearing about how we all have this child that we need to heal, yada, yada, whatever. And it really did make me think of going to the movies as an adult and seeing a woman Jedi and feeling like, oh my God, there's a place for me here. Whether it's in the universe, the fictional universe that we love to pretend we live in, or in the real world, like there is something out there for me. I can be that person. I don't just have to watch other people do it. So I was really excited to watch it. And I think within the first 10 or so minutes, maybe even less than that, I was entirely pulled in. And I will say, I think a huge part of that is the animation. When you look very closely at the characters, you can see that they're using that comic book style, like the dots. I can't remember what they're called, that style of artwork.
I want to say stippling, but I don't think that's right.
It's something like that. I think it might be somebody's name that starts with a G, if I'm being honest with you. But I don't know, and I didn't bother to look it up because that's your job. So
I know there's
the
a specific,
little dots.
well, you go on, but I know there's a specific comic book dot effect that they do talk about, but keep saying,
Yeah. Whatever it is, they're using that. But it's not so much that it's like the entire movie, because I think that I would have hated. It was just a little bit. And then there were also like I have no idea what I'm talking about now, but there were like kind of lasery effects. You can so clearly see the difference in animation style with Spider-Ham and with the Japanese robot spider girl robot
Penny
and
Parker.
with and the noir Batman. Like there's just all like just an homage to all the, what did I say? Oh, Batman. Sorry. The noir Spider-Man.
Corey
I
had
was doing
laid
really
back
well.
and he was like, nope, I have to rise up for that. That is incorrect.
He's like, I'm coming back. But there was just such an homage to all different types of animation that I thought was really cool. There was a lot of layering. I mean, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And Scotty, you can feel free to come on and give us the lowdown on all the different animation styles. But I think that it was so captivating and so beautiful. And I loved the use of text that came in and out, the comic book style text. I loved the use of, I just love the way they made New York City look. Brooklyn, excuse me, but all of it. And it was just so beautiful and so captivating. So I was hooked immediately. And then not to mention, I really enjoyed the story. I loved the way that they made the origin stories very digestible, where it wasn't like this long drawn out, like, look at how tragic my life. It was very quippy. It was like, I'm Spider-Man. This is what happened to me. Da, da, da. I felt like I had an understanding of what was going on, but they weren't inundating me with information that I was like, I really don't care. Because my biggest problem with these fucking superhero movies is that they are so goddamn long. It's like watching the Titanic.
That's in poor taste, Cab.
We've been talking about it all day. Can't get enough. But it is like watching the Titanic, which, by the way, Corey has pointed out in an episode of his own podcast that the movie Titanic is longer than the actual time it took the boat to sink after it hit the iceberg.
Yeah,
To
like
be
if
fair,
you press play on the movie, you would die before you saw the end.
Well, the movie isn't just the events of the actual sinking. There's lead
Well,
up.
yeah. There's sex too, but let me just say this.
There's steamy
okay?
car sex, yes.
Steamy car sex. Let me say this. I think if James Cameron were worth his salt, he'd have made the movie in the exact amount of time it took the boat to sink. I think that would have been way fucking cooler. If the boat took an hour and 58 minutes and 33 seconds, that movie would have hit the final credits at 1 hour, 58 minutes and 33 seconds.
What an arbitrary thing.
No. That's
No?
art, Dylan. That's art.
And I did now have to look up how long it did take the Titanic to sink, which is 2 hours and 40 minutes, which
The movie is longer than that.
I'm also now looking that up. Stand by. Goddamn, no wonder they gave us 2 VHS tapes for that movie back in the day. 3 hours and 15 minutes.
It's insane.
Whew, that's a lifetime. But like, what's the running time of the Avengers?
243.
Or
If that's right, I'll be so fucking impressed. There's no way that's right. 223.
Oh, what about Iron Man?
Titanic, by the way. Do you want me to are you trying to look for a long superhero movie?
Yeah.
I
What's
think
the longest?
Endgame was
Titanic is
probably-
10 minutes longer than the Batman.
Oh my God, we saw the Batman, and I was like, there were 3 times when I was like, "Oh, thank God this is over."
We
I
have
didn't care
actively
for that
disagreed
movie.
about this. You didn't care for it?
You know what it was? I didn't like the collar on the back of his costume.
Wait, that's the whole thing? That's what flipped you from great to bad?
Nah, there's some really cool parts, but I'm more of a Frank Miller Batman kind of old Batman kind of guy.
I love the Dark
That's
Knight.
just my
This is
Batman.
so off the rails for Into the Spider-Verse.
yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. That's why we do this.
I'm also a Conroy kind of guy.
I love Kevin Conroy. The Dark Knight Returns, I think, is great. Frank Miller, that's a great story, iconic, but it only works after so much knowledge of what Batman is supposed to be that is a deconstruction of Batman.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
How about Michael Keaton though? Let's put it together for Michael Keaton.
And
Put your hands together, everybody.
are you one of the 6 people who went and saw The Flash to support Michael Keaton, Cap?
Do you think I went to go see The Flash to support Michael Keaton? I like him, but not that much.
Well, I didn't
Wait,
see it in
you-
my theater.
Listen, I met Michael Keaton once, and he's like 5'7". All right, and that's cool, but I just feel like if Batman was real, he would be way more physically imposing.
If being 5'7" is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
Are you 5'7"?
Like my license says 5'8", but I'm like 5'7" and a half.
Listen,
Yeah.
there's people I love. Mac Miller was 5'7". I love Mac Miller, but like Batman is supposed to be like a scary guy.
Corey's like, you
Yeah.
must be this tall to be cool. No, I actually know somebody who, do you know Jack Reacher? Have you heard of like Reacher?
That's Jack Reacher. That's that show with John Krasinski.
No, that's Jack Ryan. But Jack Reacher is
Oh,
it's based
sorry.
on a series of books. He's this massive imposing character, and they made an Amazon series where he's played by this guy Alan Richson, who is a large guy, and it makes sense. That's how he's described in the books. Years ago, they made a movie of Jack Reacher starring Tom Cruise, and I know someone who was actively like, I can't believe they're doing this. And it was like, what's the problem? And they were like, Tom Cruise is too small to be Jack Reacher. Like they
Well,
were
you know
actually
what's
like
funny?
against it.
On the flip side of that, I think Hugh Jackman is too big to be Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman is too big to be Wolverine. And
Yeah.
back in the day, there was thoughts of making Bob Hoskins Wolverine because
Or Danny
Wolverine
DeVito.
I've seen the fan art of Danny DeVito's Wolverine. That would only work if they had made the movie like 50 years ago. But I could see it.
Yeah.
I know one thing about Wolverine and one thing only, and that is how much Zach loved that goddamn costume.
I do not even remember that. That's so funny.
You don't remember? There was
No.
a Halloween where Zach was Wolverine. I was Cinderella. And I don't remember what you were, but I probably only remember it from seeing the photos. But Zach was Wolverine. It was the yellow with the blue,
yeah.
and he had the big long. Now, let me ask you this. Which one of the two of you was the really big Spider-Man fan? Because I remember one of you loved Spider-Man, but I don't remember which one it was.
Superheroes in general would be me, not Zach.
He wasn't a Spider-Man guy? Okay.
He didn't really care about any superheroes. His superhero is
Interesting.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, I remember that. Yikes. Okay. So anyway, if I may, I think ultimately I really enjoyed the comedy. I really enjoyed the artwork. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed that it wasn't so long that I wanted to die. But I think more importantly than anything, the fact that we had had that conversation about how important it was to you and kind of reflecting on that similar sort of experience that I have had in the past, I think it was just really, had we not had that conversation, it may not have occurred to me. I might have just watched it and thought, oh, now this new kid is Spider-Man. Okay, whatever. But knowing how much it affected you and thinking about how incredible it is for, you know, young kids today to see that and to have that kind of in the universe and to think about like how many people were positively affected by that. And, you know, thinking about like if we have children, like how important that is, and just, you know, seeing that kind of unfold and how happy it made you and how excited you were, like just watching the movie on the couch, was amazing. And I think my favorite moment was when I almost said Spider B Man, when Peter B. Parker is watching Miles and he's like, I'm so proud of you. Do I want to have kids? Like, it was just so, that was just such a nice moment. I loved it. It made me so happy. And that's really it. And you know, I think the best part about this movie, and the thing that I really appreciated the most, probably surface level, was that I don't really know much about Spider-Man, and I felt like I enjoyed every second. They explained it well. I got good backstories, and I wasn't beaten to death with this like 3-hour, my uncle died and then this happened and that happened. And when you're finally ready to be done, now the bad guy is here and we have to fight him, which I think is what every superhero movie does.
There's a lot of superhero movies that are doing stuff like that, but I do think that this movie just does everything well. It does it as concisely as it can, because I don't think it can make it too concise because they have so many characters to explain. Let me ask you a question, Gab, as somebody who's not into animation, not into superhero movies. Did it make you interested enough that you would see the sequel, Across the Spider-Verse?
I feel like I shouldn't say this until we are giving our verdicts, but since I've kind of already told you how much I like it, we're going to go on Friday.
Oh, have you seen any of the trailers?
No, I don't know shit.
I won't spoil anything then.
No, I mean, go ahead. Like, the trailer could come on TV right after we're done with this.
You're like, it could happen at any moment. Peter B. Parker, we do see in the trailer, so it's not that massive of a spoiler, does have a baby now.
Well, he goes back to Mary Jane's store, which, by the way, personally, I feel like once a relationship fails, round 2 is probably not going to be any better, but who knows, you know.
You don't know
That's
what
a
was going
different
on. It could have been him in like a midlife slump type thing that he was going through. We don't know. Let's not judge.
I really
Peter B.
love.
I love his
He's
sweatpants
fine.
look.
Peter B was my favorite Spider-Man.
He's great.
Peter
Like
B
that
was
performance
great.
is phenomenal.
I really loved when he was giving like the "this is what happened to me" speech, and you see him on his bed eating pizza, and he's like, and I was like getting strong and getting in shape. Like, it really made me laugh.
I like when things are starting to float because the dimensions are opening up, and he is just reaching with his mouth for the pizza that is starting to fly away from him. He's like,
He's still trying to eat it. Yeah.
So good.
oh, I'm trying to find, because I think I did write it down, when we have that scene of them meeting the other Spider-Men, and he says Peter B. Parker is trying to like talk up Miles. Here it is. This kid can turn himself invisible. Watch this. And he like tries to do it. He can't do it. He goes, I can't do it now. He can't do it on command. And he's like, all right, he can do a venom strike. Can't do it. Can't do it on command. And like, it's just really funny
It's
the way
so
that
good.
his tone.
Who is that actor again?
Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson. Jack Johnson is the guitar
Jack Johnson's
guy.
the singer. Jake Johnson is the new girl guy.
Yes.
Yes, which I will
Funny.
certainly get into in the facts, but yes.
Okay.
I will also say, Corey, you said you watched the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Yes, I did.
I don't know if you remember this. There is an episode of that cartoon that has the character the Prowler in it. And he is way more of a bitch than in this movie. Like, you do not give a fuck about the Prowler in that show. He's like, I wanted to be a tough guy, so I had this super suit. And you're like, you're not tough. You're barely a
See,
guy. Get out of the
From
show.
the cartoon, like I mostly remember the Kingpin being around all the time. I remember like crossover stuff with Daredevil or like Dr. Connors or like Craven, but I don't really remember the Prowler.
He's literally in one episode, so it makes sense that you would forget him.
Well, before we move on, I want to talk about the one thing that I hated.
What is it? Because I feel like I might know what it is.
Can I tell you that I just fucking forgot and now I'm nervous because I'm on the spot? You might have to cut this part out. What did I say I hated?
Well,
oh
my guess
God,
was going to be that you hated the design of the Kingpin specifically.
Oh, I did say that. I said, why is he so big?
Yeah, his head was tiny.
He
That was
can't
my
fit through
only
the
thing
door.
I didn't like.
Oh my God, what did I hate? Oh my God, this is gonna kill me now. I interrupted you and everything.
Which Kingpin in the movie?
Miles's uncle looks exactly like Common.
Oh, he does look like Common, yes.
Well, he's supposed to look like Mahershala Ali.
I guess who kind of looks like Common.
No, he doesn't.
No,
looks
he
nothing
doesn't.
like Common.
No,
Well,
he
you
does
know.
not.
He looks more like Wesley Snipes.
Fair. What did I say I hated? There was one thing that I was like, fuck this. Oh my God, I was so excited to find a moment that I could say it that now I don't even remember what it was. Come
No
back to me.
pressure. Just going to
PDNY.
leave the dead air.
No, it wasn't PDNY. That didn't bother me. It was yeah, no, come back to me.
Okay.
Come back
It's
to me.
very. I guess it happens all the time. Like I'll be in the middle of talking to Giselle, and I'll be like, "You know what I think?" And she'll be like, "What?" I'll be like, "I don't know what I think."
I lost it. It's gone. I'm gonna think about it. Come back to me.
Okay, I can talk about more quotes that I like.
Yes.
I do like when they invade Alchemax and they have that moment where they're awkwardly in the cafeteria and Peter B. Parker goes selecting a bagel, and then you have a random scientist go, "He took a bagel."
Yes.
Love that part.
Where is the quote? It's the cops who goes, "Looks like a child dressed like Spider-Man dragging a homeless corpse behind a train." And also just a very New York thing where Peter B. Parker and Miles are both like in the middle of a crosswalk. And Miles goes, "Maybe you guys can go around," and like nobody's going around. They're just like stepping over them. And he's like, "All right, thanks, New York." Like it just felt very accurate that like, no, people do not have the time to not just step over the people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Also, can we talk about Peter B. Parker, Jewish?
What?
He does the whole stepping on a glass thing at his wedding in his little montage.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
right. Oh my God, you're right.
Even thought of that.
Representation.
I was like, just a little bit.
Wow. But you know what? Here's the thing. There's no fucking way any Jewish mother is going to let her son be Spider-Man. No way.
He doesn't
I
have a
had
mother.
the exact same thought, and thank goodness he's an orphan. But even his Jewish aunt would have said, "Thank goodness he's an orphan." That's a terrible sentence. But even his Jewish aunt would have been like, "You're not going out web slinging. You're not going to do that. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to get a nice job, something at a desk."
Sit at a desk. I don't need you out there. I don't need to be worrying about you out there wondering who's getting you with what kind of webs you slinging. No, absolutely not. Yeah,
You know where
his aunt
spiders
was
spend
really
most of their
cool.
time? Indoors. That's where they are.
Yeah, honestly.
We-
But actually, now that I say that, the aunt is the other Spider-Man's aunt, so she's not Jewish, presumably.
Yes, she is. I guess I didn't know what to call him, so I'm just like main Spider-Man, original Spider-Man,
Yeah, Spider-B man.
Spider-A-Man, Peter A. Parker.
Spider-A man. Right.
But he did
God,
seem
what did I hate
awesome.
about this?
Like,
Yeah, he seemed okay.
I think that he said the line, "With great ability comes great accountability." I think it was like in his apology or something like that he had to say.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I did hate also?
Hmm.
Miles goes over to see his Uncle Aaron and just puts his shoes right on his Uncle Aaron's couch. And you know what? That's not cool.
Not
yeah,
cool.
I don't like that.
That's not good.
Not in your
You
own
can't be
home,
doing that.
not in someone else's home. You don't put shoes on a couch. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
Giselle's like, if I take more than 5 steps into the apartment, I still got my shoes on. She's like, so now I guess the floor is just filthy. And I'm like, I live here. Come on. I can put my shoes anywhere I want. And I still wouldn't put my shoes on the couch.
Yeah. Amen.
Gab, have you thought of what you hate yet? Should I keep saying quotes?
Oh, it's so obvious, Dylan. I'm so sorry. Like now I'm embarrassed. Listener, I'm sorry that I kept you waiting. I don't understand the multiverse thing. I mean, I understand it like the way that I also understand that some people speak Chinese, but that doesn't mean that I can like interpret what's happening. You know what I mean? I get that there is a universe and specifically the multiverse as it pertains to Spider-Gwen. And Corey did a really nice job and was very patient with me, explaining that Gwen was Peter Parker's best friend and she dies and he tries to save her, but they're not romantic, but they could have been romantic, something, something, something. And now she's back. And in this universe, Peter B. Parker sees them talking and is like, but like at the like, I don't get it.
What's the part you don't get?
All of it. Top to bottom. I don't get it. I don't understand how he knew this girl. She wasn't spidery, but then she was spidery in a different dimension where they kind of knew each other but didn't. And the one Spider-Man knew her. Peter B. Parker knew her and knew something was going on, but Miles Morales didn't. And also she was in the universe as Gwen, regular Gwen, but then she came back as Gwen Spider-Gwen.
No, she was only Spider-Gwen.
Don't get it.
Spider-Gwen. She went to the school because she had her intuition told her to go there, and she discovered that Miles, before Miles even really understood what was going on,
she could sense something was going on. That's why the first time that she grabs his hair, that he grabs her hair and she's sticking to it, she tells him just relax, like, because she understands what's happening to him.
Oh, okay, that's fine. But then how did Peter B. Parker recognize her and not?
He didn't recognize her. I'm not sure what you mean.
I feel like he did recognize. This is the thing. I think he recognized her because they
were like on the bus.
So they're on the bus, right? And he's there. Miles and Gwen are talking, and Peter B is laying down across the back, and I guess they think he's taking a nap.
Yeah.
And she, in the beginning, she was like telling her story, and she goes, "So I don't really do friends anymore."
Because in her universe, Peter Parker was the Lizard and died.
The Lizard? What the fuck?
The Lizard's a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah. So in her universe, that's what happened. But however it happened, I didn't realize that he was the Lizard in that universe. But from my understanding, Peter was back there listening because she said, he was like, if you ever want to consider doing friends again. And she was like, seemed like she was open to the idea of having friends now. And Peter like smiled. And I thought, oh, maybe he feels like, because from his universe, what happened between him and her, and him having to watch her die, and she. I
don't think so. I think he's just recognizing their cute chemistry moment there. I think he's just like, look at these two kids, how cute.
Could be, because even that's true too. Because even at the end, when he was like, kind of doing that a little bit when they were like in the end fight scene too.
I think he very obviously recognizes that Miles has a thing for Gwen.
It all feels very ancestral. Like, are they all just fucking each other in different dimensions? Also, what's a different dimension?
Now, okay, have you heard of the butterfly effect?
Yeah, we watched that movie together.
We did. That movie sucks.
And also, they beat the dog. I didn't care for that movie.
Terrible.
They set the dog on fire.
Yeah, Zach
I mean
made
the
us watch
concept.
it.
I don't mean the movie. If you think I'm ever referencing an Ashton Kutcher movie, I'm not.
Fair. Yeah. If you go back in time and kill a butterfly, it'll set off like a chain of events that will completely alter the future.
Well, to put it even simpler than that, something as simple as a butterfly flapping its wings could cause a tsunami. You know what I mean? Like one small change creates different things.
Yeah.
So in Universe A, one thing happens that leads to Peter Parker being more confident, which makes that version of Spider-Man the better one. In Universe B, Peter Parker is late one day and he ends up losing his job and getting fat and having a midlife crisis. Like, they're all Spider-Man, but all of these universes have slight differences.
So, oh boy, how dumb do I want to sound
Like,
in public?
We exist in the third dimension, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Gab, are you three-dimensional?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in another dimension, there's no depth or
No,
width?
don't think about that literally. We're not talking about the second dimension where people are paper. Picture dimension 3A.
Uh-huh.
Where instead of growing up on Long Island, Gab grew up in New York City. You'd still be you, but you'd be a slightly different you, wouldn't you?
Sure.
And that's what the multiverse theory is, that every universe exists simultaneously.
And it's all the same with just slight differences.
Well, it all exists. So there are some with slight differences, there are some with larger differences.
Okay, but like, for example, let's say there are 3 billion people in the world. Is that correct? I don't know.
There's
3 billion
like
people
close
in
to
New York
8
City?
billion.
Okay. 8 billion people in the world. Are there the same 8 billion in every dimension? They're just slightly different based on circumstance? Or I always imagine if there was a different dimension or a different universe, there would be a completely new set of 8 billion people. Like, I only exist in this dimension.
That's entirely theoretical. So yes, is the answer.
Are
Both can be right.
Is there science to suggest that maybe there are different dimensions?
Yes.
There's theoretical science. We can't prove it.
Science.
Do you think you'd be happier in a different dimension? And if so, what would that dimension look like?
I
Go.
just couldn't be sadder, Gab. No.
Do you go to that dimension and kill the you in that dimension so you can now take his place, or do you go see what his life is like and go, or her life is like and go, nah, this looks all right, I'm gonna go back to mine?
I feel like I asked you a question.
What's the question again?
We don't know anything about the dimension.
Okay.
It's just we know nothing about it. You got to paint a picture.
Okay. How many times have you shit your pants, Dylan?
Today?
Nobody asked me about my pants shitting.
Gab, are you shitting your pants right now?
No, not currently. I've actually never really had that close of an experience, save for one time when I was on a 20-mile run, because that'll really, like, the wrong combination of like too many Sour Patch Kids and coconut water and like running at a certain speed will really do it for you. But I actually was able to not shit myself.
So you have not shit yourself since you were a baby.
Yeah, correct. Since it's been appropriate to shit myself.
Tell the story
I find that
you told
hard
me
to
the other
believe.
day about a guy shitting himself, and then
Oh, okay. So when I was in middle school, we had this kid. I guess I don't need to. I'll just use his first name. We had this kid in my school named Corey, and I've only ever met 3 Corys. The one sitting next to me, there's this Australian guy who runs a company that puts on races on Long Island. I've done a triathlon and a couple marathons with him, and this kid from my middle school. And Corey was definitely like different. I don't know if he was like necessarily in like inclusion or whatnot. I don't know like what his deal was, but he was like kind of a weirdo, at least in terms of middle school. I'm sure he's fine now. But in middle school, he shit his pants and I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
But we were sitting in class. He shit his pants in class, and the shit was hard. It was like a log. And he was wearing sweatpants with cuffs on the bottom, which he wore every day.
I have such an eerily similar story, but I'm gonna let you finish.
Corey, not the Corey that I'm in a relationship with, the middle school Corey kid who is probably fine now, but was definitely questionable in middle school, pulled the turd from the leg of his pants and put it in his backpack and just like pretended it didn't happen. But we all knew it happened to a point where I am 31 years old and I still like clear as day. I'm like, yep, I remember when Corey shit his pants.
That story took such an odd twist.
What was your story?
I'm sorry. We're skipping past the part where the person grabbed the poop and put it in their personal belongings.
You sure he didn't just have a lump of coal in his back?
I'm positive, because what his thought process was, oh, I'll just flush it when I get to the bathroom.
Oh, that is
Like, he
rough.
didn't want anybody to know. It's not like he was like, oh, let me bring this home for my collection. He was like, uh-oh, I just shit myself. Let me put it in my backpack and deal with it later.
He
We
did
had a
it as if
thing-
he does it all the time.
Right. Like, he had a system. You know, like sometimes a girl will like get her period and be like, oh, let me tie my sweatshirt around my waist. It's not like how you deal with the problem every time. It's just
Emergency
you have a system in
protocols.
place. Emergency protocol, exactly. His emergency protocol was taking the log of shit from
You
his
guys were
fucking
doing fire
ankle
drills.
band.
He was doing shit drills.
Exactly. Yes. What happened in your circle?
In 5th grade, we had I think it was either 4th or 5th grade. We had like a class field trip that we would go on to this place upstate. And it was a thing
What
that happened
place?
every year. I think it was called like Huguenot or something like that. But
Oh, okay.
it was a couple nights. So like for most of these kids, it's like the first time you're being a night away from like your parents, even besides like a sleepover nearby. So there was this kid, I'm not going to say his name. He's literally like, I want to say it happened in the middle of a hallway. He was wearing cargo shorts and he pooped himself.
First mistake. Oh.
And we're talking the poop was on the ground and people noticed.
Hard,
like-
soft. What was the consistency?
Was it liquid stool?
It was not liquid. It was hard enough that it like plop. So we've all seen it by this point. That night, we're getting like an educational discussion. Like there's a guy with, talking about exotic birds. And he tells us about the bird, the turkey vulture, which shits on itself as part of its cleaning ritual. And if you think that children did not call this kid the turkey vulture for a significant period of time, you do not know the cruelty of children.
Oh, man.
I will say, I cannot think of this kid now without like thinking, oh, the turkey vulture.
Right, of course.
He literally tried to run for like a councilman position. And I was like, no, but you can't vote for the turkey vulture for council. It can't be done.
Councilman, like as an adult of
yes, like as a Long Island council person, he wanted to be.
Wow. And was he elected?
No.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He
That's
only
crazy.
secured the vote of people who poop themselves, so it was not a major contingent.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever go to, and this is a question for both of you. Does the name Frost Valley ring any bells for you?
It does not.
No.
So Frost Valley, oftentimes, maybe this is a Long Island thing. This might even be a Sachem thing where I went to school, but kids would always say there was like a rite of passage to have a sweatshirt, a hoodie that said Frost Valley on it, because all of the honors science kids got to go to an overnight trip to Frost Valley, which I think is like some upstate place where they do science discussions or whatever. But there's also a zip line. And that's the thing, is that you have to go and listen to them talk about science bullshit, but then you get to go on the zip line, which is so ironic because my high school had a Project Adventure course. And the culmination of Project Adventure is using the zip line. You climb up the telephone pole, you like make your own knot in the harness and you go down the zip line, and everybody did it. But in middle school, if you're cool, you go to Frost Valley. That's the only reason you take honor science. So you can go to Frost Valley and you get the Frost Valley sweatshirt. Well, I was certainly not in honor science, so I did not get to go to Frost Valley. But my best friend, Nikki, who is now an anesthesiologist, did go to Frost Valley. And when she was there, they were all going down the zip line, and the school nurse, who was a chaperone on the field trip, climbed up to the top and started going down the zip line. And as she went down the zip line, she pissed her pants in front of the entire honor science student body. And she got off and her pants were soaked. And apparently as she was going down the zip line, you could see it raining piss.
Was anyone under her?
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think that probably would have been burned in my memory as like so-and-so got pissed on. But she did have to change her pants. It was not a secret. She was like, yep, I peed my pants. And yeah. Anyway, shout out to Frost Valley.
Frost Valley also sounds like the kids' version of a timeshare where they're like, listen, you got to get through all this side stuff and then you get the zip line.
You get to go to
That
Frost
also
Valley.
just reminded me of how many, like the unreasonable amount of times I've been shit on by a bird in the last 2 years.
So listen to this. Corey is a bird shit magnet. I'm not joking. To a point where maybe a few weeks ago, not even, it was like 8:00 in the morning and we're walking to work and he says to me, I just get shit on all the time, but I haven't been shit on in a while. And we were like, yeah, wow. And that afternoon he got shit on.
Shit right on. Shit on. And I'll get shit on birds like while I'm riding on the bike. Like I'll be passing under a pole and they'll hit me. while I'm passing.
The leg, the arm, the hair,
But
what
why?
you name it, he's been shit on.
I don't know. I just keep getting shit on, and it's not good luck. 'Cause I'm
You did
still
something to
bored.
birds in a past life, man.
Yeah.
I love the birds.
He's an animal person, but I don't know. You're shit on frequently. Anyway, all of this to say, the universe thing was a little bit confusing to me. And I'm going to admit to you, because I have never shit myself. Although I used to piss myself a lot, especially when we were kids, because you guys would make me laugh. And I would just like not pee because I was afraid of missing the fun. And I would just like, do you remember me like pissing my pants all the time?
I feel like that sounds familiar. I'm also just going to say, Gab, if you have not shit yourself, it's coming.
Oh my God.
It's coming.
I
The
promise.
shit reaper is coming for you.
Right hand to God, I promise in front of the two people I talk to the most that when I shit myself, I will talk about it on the podcast.
I'm not making that demand if you don't make that demand of yourself. Don't
I've
do
had
that.
close encounters.
Of the turd
I mean,
kind.
when you fuck you. Yeah. I mean, when you and Corey, I mean, back me up or tell me if you disagree. But when you do like really, really, really heavy, like close to body weight, surpassing body weight lifting, like there's always a moment where you're like, I may shit myself trying to get this weight up.
Are you asking? No, that doesn't happen to me.
You are never at the bottom of a squat thinking this could be it.
No, like if I have like a pre-workout or something like or an energy drink before we work out.
Yeah.
Like my stomach might be a little bubbly, but I never feel it when I'm like in the middle of a movement.
There are definitely times where I'm like, the amount of strain that I'm producing right now to stand up could result, and it's never happened. So maybe that's just like my fear manifesting as like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. But like we've called things shit your pants heavy.
Yeah, because I think that's funny.
Oh, I thought you were serious.
No.
Because I'm like, you're right, it is shit your pants heavy.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's I mean, that's all. I just don't really understand the multiverse thing. I think for a minute I was like, is this real? Like, and if so,
Theoretically,
we're just cool with it? Yeah, theoretically.
Yeah,
all right.
theoretically, it's real.
Well,
if theoretically
all right.
another universe exists, it doesn't affect you at all. So yes, you're cool with it. Like what difference does it make?
I guess I'm not going to lay in bed all night worrying about it. I don't know. It's fine. Doesn't,
Okay.
yeah.
It shouldn't
Okay.
affect you that greatly.
Things affect me, Dylan. Things affect
If you
me.
do
It's
lay
the
in bed all
Judaism.
night, just know that there's another universe version of you where you didn't lay in bed all night.
I get really good sleep. Yeah, that's the version of me I'd like to be. Why don't we get to the facts?
I want the truth!
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on Rotten Tomatoes. The tomato meter gives it a 97%, an average rating of 8.8 out of 10, 388 fresh reviews, and 11 rotten. Audience score 94%, average score of 4.5 out of 5. IMDb gives this an 8.4 out of 10. It had a budget of $90 million. It grossed $384 million.
So again, my question stands. How does a cartoon cost $90 million?
Well, look at the actors in it too. There's like huge actors in it.
Do you have
How
any
much
idea
could
how
they
many people
possibly
it takes
be
to
paid?
animate something?
I suppose that's true. Yeah, there was a special effects guy.
I don't know if I wrote it down in
Post
the
Malone.
facts, but
Post
I think there was
Malone?
more than 170 animators who worked on this.
How long did it take?
Years. I think like 4 years.
Holy shit. All right, anyway, continue.
It was directed by Bob Perichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman, who have also directed Rise of the Guardians, an episode of The Mandalorian, and pretty much nothing else. Like I think for one of them, it was the first thing they'd ever had a directing credit on. They did a lot of animation department work prior to this.
Imagine directing an animated movie. Like how?
I don't know. It's always something that's very interesting to me because I picture a director on set making those decisions rather than
Right.
how it works animation wise.
Yeah.
The movie was written by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman, who also wrote The Lego Movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and 22 Jump Street.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love Will Arnett?
What?
Will Arnett.
What does that have to do with anything?
How much do you love him?
How much
have
do
you
you
ever
love
watched Arrested
pistachios? Where the
Development?
fuck did this come from?
You said the Lego movie. Oh,
Is he
he's
in
the
the-
Batman Lego.
He's the Lego Batman movie. God, Gab.
Well, do you or don't you? Did you ever watch
I love the
Arrested
Lego
Development?
Batman movie.
Yeah, Lego Batman's great.
I don't understand why we have to watch a superhero movie where they're made out of Legos. Like,
Because
okay,
fuck you,
cool.
it's great.
Okay. Arrested Development, yes or no?
Meh,
What?
meh,
Are you No, are you serious? Have you given it a fair shake?
meh.
You've never seen it.
I watched it when I was younger, and I have no interest in returning to it.
Does Zach like it?
Probably more than I do. I don't know.
There's
I
always
don't think
money in the
Zach's in
banana
love with it
stand.
either.
Wow. All right. Well, fuck you then. Keep going.
All right. The movie stars Shamik Moore as Miles Morales, who you may know from the TV shows The Get Down and Wu-Tang and American Saga. Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, who you know from The New Girl or Jurassic World. Haley Steinfeld as Gwen, who you may know from Bumblebee, Hawkeye, and The Edge of 17. Mahershala Ali as Uncle Aaron / The Prowler, who you may know from Moonlight. Yes, I said the slash. House of Cards, True Detective, and a lot of other stuff. He's really, really good. I feel like there's so many famous people that I could also name.
Post Malone, Nicolas Cage, John Mulaney.
Chris Pine,
Yep.
Liev Schreiber.
Let us
Catherine
not
Hahn.
forget the one and only post-credit scene star,
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar
So
Isaac.
you did see the post-credit scene. I was going to bring that up in the facts.
Yeah, keep going.
Lily Tomlin, Brian Tyree Henry, Luna Lauren Velez, Zoe Kravitz.
So good.
And it won the 2019 Academy Award for Best Animated Feature Film.
Of course.
Damn right it did.
Critics' consensus, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse matches bold storytelling with striking animation for a purely enjoyable adventure with heart, humor, and plenty of superhero action. Couple reviews, Richard Brody from The New Yorker. The spectacularly colorful, varied, and busy animation is impressive, but bombastic, leaving little room for wonder and suggesting exertion rather than inspiration.
Fuck you.
He knows nothing. He's a hack.
He's like the only negative review that I could find. And there were 388, so I only really looked at like top reviewers, and I was like, wow, this one guy did not like it. Joe Morgenstern from the Wall Street Journal. The scale feels vast, yet the spirit is joyous. It's as if everyone had set out to make the best Spider-Man movie ever, which is exactly what they've done. Leonard Maltin from leonardmaltin.com. For once, a movie lives up to its hype. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the most spectacular animated feature I've ever seen. Jesse Hassinger from AV Club. This is the 7th Spider-Man feature film in 16 years, but this universe has rarely felt so fresh. That was all
Love
the
that.
reviews. I just kept those simple because I got a couple of facts. If you hit pause anytime a train goes by, because all the animators wanted to animate Stan Lee, he's in almost every single train.
Wow. Was he dead when this movie came out?
He died like a month before it came out.
Got it. R.I.P.
The movie came out December of 2018. I think he passed away in November. At around 52 minutes in, the bagel text as the bagel hits the scientist's head was a joke pitch that an animator took seriously and added in. They loved it.
I loved that.
Yeah, the bagel thing was great.
Completing the animation for the film required up to 180 animators, the largest crew ever used by Sony Pictures Animation for a film. At around 9 minutes in, while Miles visits Uncle Aaron's apartment, the television is playing the TV show Community. The beginning of that episode, Anthropology 101, shows Donald Glover's character Troy getting out of bed wearing Spider-Man pajamas. This was a reference to an unsuccessful 2010 online campaign to get Donald Glover a chance to audition for the lead role in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes. I always firmly believed that Donald Glover would have been an amazing Spider-Man. Now, I don't know anything about Spider-Man, but I know Donald Glover is a man of the people.
Well, it's like you don't know anything about Batman, but you love Michael Keaton.
Fuck you.
No, I thought that was an apt comparison, but okay. Donald Glover's pretty good
I know
at
something
everything he
about
does.
Batman.
Donald Glover is incredible.
Incredible.
Miles Morales' co-creator, Brian Michael Bendis, describes the image of Glover in the Spider-Man pajamas as one of the major inspirations for the creation of Miles Morales and the character's design.
I love that.
Jake Johnson did an interview in which he was asked how his character, Peter B. Parker, dealt with a sense of hopelessness. Johnson said, "I think Peter wants someone to remind him how great it is to be Spider-Man, and I think Miles does that for him. It's like losing faith in humanity and then having a kid and remembering how great all of this is."
Aww.
Wow, that's really nice.
The main Peter Parker mentions a Christmas album he has. Some of the songs on the Christmas album, Spidey, It's Cold Outside, Swinging Around the Mistletoe, Silent Night, parentheses, you're welcome. Joy to the World, that I just saved. Spidey the Snowman, it's beginning to look a lot like a non-denominational holiday, and Ave Maria.
That's incredible.
The movie was announced during do you remember how Sony got hacked? When they were making the interview and like.
Yes.
That is how this movie was
vaguely.
announced, that they were talking about doing a multiverse movie of Spider-Man.
Wow.
During a flashback sequence, when Peter B. Parker recalls his marriage, he steps on a glass at the end of the ceremony. Many viewers took this as an indication Peter B. Parker was being depicted as Jewish, an interpretation that was verified by the movie's co-director, Rodney Rothman, in his 2019 interview by Jerry Miller in the Jewish Journal.
Yay!
Shalom, Spider-Man.
L'chaim.
Cast features 2 Oscar winners, Mahershala Ali and Nicolas Cage, and 2 Oscar nominees, Haley Steinfeld and Lily Tomlin.
Pause. Haley Steinfeld, I thought was just a singer.
She was an actor before she was a singer, I believe. I think she's been acting since, I think she was gotta be like really young, like 10 to 13 years old in True Grit.
But I'm really glad to hear that because her music is not very good.
It's fine.
Yeah, but it's not like great. Like I'm glad that she was worth something. That's a bad way of saying it, but like I'm glad she has some talent and wasn't just like another girl making mediocre pop music.
She's a multi-threat.
Yeah.
Multi-hyphenate?
Who cares?
Whatever. She's richer than you.
Well, everybody's richer than me. I got like $38.
Venmo Gab.
Venmo me. Thank you.
Oh, apparently also when Peter and Miles are running through the woods escaping Alchemax, if you really peer in the back, you can see a figure in white taking out some of the scientists, which is Spider-Gwen.
I love the details. Like the attention to detail is like, it's the best. You can go back and watch it and be like, I never caught that before.
Yes, which I feel like you guys even mentioned PDNY, which I read in the facts, and I'm like, I've never noticed that watching this movie before. That it's not
PDNY. There was another thing too.
There was like a Coca soda thing, like a Coca-Cola thing.
Wasn't it like Red X?
Red X.
Instead of FedEx.
You can see an ad for Steph Curry as a famous golfer on like a billboard, and it's like, okay.
Wow. There's also Seth Rogen as somebody.
I feel like I know that I read about that, and it's like things that I did not notice because I was not like going frame by frame.
Lazy.
But that is all the facts I have.
Wow. All right. Well, is it time?
Corey, is it time for verdicts?
I think it's time for the verdict.
Well, it doesn't matter what you think, Corey, because we have some mail we have to get to, okay?
God damn it, Corey.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
We have 2 weeks worth of mail to catch up on, which some weeks for us, that would mean there's nothing. But actually, there's a lot of mail here.
Oh, God. All right. Let's get through it.
Okay. I'm going to go through the comments first. So first we got on Josie and the Pussycats, a comment from Scotty Cameron, who we attacked at one point during our last episode.
Yeah.
So he gave the time
that.
code for 4905 and Josie and the Pussycats and said, "What is this? Johnny Depp, Amber Heard? Quote, Scotty, I didn't punch you, I hit you." Okay, enough dark humor. Of course, Bryan Singer had the character named Scott say the yellow spandex line, and then the same character has the most embarrassing fuck in a PG-13 movie. How has Corey not shown Gab X-Men or Blade? From everything Gab said about Corey, that he loves superhero movies and shows many of them to her. Maybe he's not much of a Blade and or X-Men fan. Grammarly does paragraph my thoughts. I just have to subscribe to Grammarly Premium. I am too much of a cheap bastard to pay for premium.
That's fair. We have to stop every, 30 minutes to do another Zoom meeting for this podcast.
I was about to make that reference. I was going to say, I'm not a cheap bastard. I just like to pause every 40 minutes for Gab and I to collect our thoughts some more. I don't know what you're talking about.
Scotty, that whatever you were referring to is so long ago for me that I don't even know what to say.
I can also tell you that this is not the last you've heard of Scotty. So let's move on to some comments.
Let's keep going.
So we got a comment here from.
Wait, that was the only comment from Josie and the Pussycats?
That was it. No,
Son of
there's email about Josie and the Pussycats.
Okay, good.
But we're not
Good,
at
good,
the
good.
email yet, Gab. Don't jump
Okay.
ahead of me.
I understand. Listen, I just need to understand what's happening.
Don't bully
I
me,
wanna be
Gab. I
involved.
was cyberbullied within an inch of my life last night. I'm stealing that from Broad City. Okay, so we have a comment from Pedro. Pedro here, back from my exile. Damn, the 1 week where I managed to send emails to this podcast and jump on the Batwagon, and one is skipping emails and the other has no episode. Guess that's what happens when you disappear for so long. Also, Dylan, you forgot to mention Tommy Lee Jones' biggest role, Harvey Dent, Two-Face in Batman Forever, where Jones had to work with and match his performance to Jim Carrey's Riddler, and said this to Jim Carrey's face, quote, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery." Which I feel like I have mentioned before. That's an all-time, like, of all the random Hollywood quotes I feel like I've ever heard, for Tommy Lee Jones to go and say that, that's one of my favorites.
So that wasn't a line from the movie? Tommy Lee Jones actually said that to Jim Carrey?
He just personally said that to Jim Carrey.
Huh. Was Jim Carrey offended?
I don't know. I also imagine during Men in Black, he went up to Will Smith and was like, "No, I will not get jiggy with it." Okay. I just want to hear everything he has to say to his co-stars.
Yeah, I just feel like he's probably not like a super fun guy to be around. But anyway.
Pedro continues, though I do love Indiana Jones, I agree with Gab. Han Solo is Harrison Ford's biggest role, in my opinion.
Boom, I'm retiring from this podcast. Have a nice day.
They're 1 and 2. They are number 1 and number 2 with ease.
Yeah, but Han Solo forever. Anyway, go on.
Also, yes, his beard in the beginning was way too big. Can't imagine that Dr. Kimball looked good during surgery with that bushy beard going past his mask. Well,
Ew,
maybe he's
yeah.
worried about looking good out of the mask, Pedro. Okay. He doesn't.
Well, he's
spend his
doing a
entire
bad
life.
job.
What do you mean? I thought it was a nice
I mean, it
beard.
looks bad. Go on.
As a man who needs to trim his beard while recording this podcast right now, I thought it was a fine beard.
Ridiculous.
Scotty also responded to Pedro's comment and backed up you, Gab. Han Solo is definitely Ford's biggest role, followed by Indiana Jones, then Jack Ryan from Tom Clancy's Ryanverse, then Richard Deckard from Blade Runner. You ever see Blade Runner,
Scotty.
Gab?
Do I look like someone who has seen Blade Runner, Dylan?
Gab, I'm always shocked at what movies you haven't seen, quite frankly.
No, I haven't seen Blade Runner.
I feel like you won't even get this reference because you haven't seen the movie. I feel like you're Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, where you're just in one of those little weird tube thingies. It doesn't matter. It's not worth explaining to you. You don't get the reference. I'm not going to.
Nope.
I'm stopping the train here.
Stop wasting your breath.
Blade Runner, people definitely know better than Jack Ryan. Just saying. Okay. Continuing on. The Fugitive. Scotty Cameron had this to say.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned The Princess Bride in this episode, and I just wanted to address a link between The Princess Bride and The Fugitive. The Princess Bride stars Carrie Elwes as Wesley, best known as Dr. Gordon in the Saw movies. I don't know.
Second best known as the creepy stepdad from Georgia Rule.
Listen, if we're ranking Carrie Elwes roles, that's not making the second best known. Elwes will play Denlinger in the upcoming film Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Is his name really Denlinger? That doesn't sound very imposing.
No.
Which also features the return of Henry Czerny as Eugene Kittredge from the first Mission Impossible. 2 years before Mission Impossible, Czerny would star in another international spy movie, Clear and Present Danger, where he plays Robert Ritter and serves in Harrison Ford's second outing as the titular Jack Ryan. Of course, Ford plays Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive. There's the connection between The Princess Bride and The Fugitive. He just 6 degrees of separation does.
Wow. Thank you.
Following that up, he had to say something about this because I don't think I addressed it enough. Andrew Davis, the director, directed Steven Seagal movies back when Seagal could get his movies released in theaters and would actually stand up and choreograph his own fights instead of doing them sitting down or having a body double do all the work.
Yeah, you forgot to mention the bargain basement bargain
bin basement motherfucker Steven Seagal, yeah.
The Steven Seagal bargain basement bin DVD shit pile.
Scotty, if you haven't seen it, you have to look up from Mad TV Steven Seagal, where it was Will Sasso pretending to be Steven Seagal and just like pretend he was like, "No, I'm actually going to do magic on this take. Film it." Like it's great.
That's
all
funny.
Right. Shall we get to some emails?
Yes, please.
Okay. Our first email from Scott Interante.
Oh my
Join
God, I was
the
hoping
army.
for this.
Dear Gab and Dylan, pronounced Dylon. After hearing you talk about Adam Schlesinger, writer of That Thing You Do, writing some of the songs in Josie and the Pussycats, I decided I didn't need to write in. That was really my only thing I wanted to make sure you talked about. But then, Gab specifically called me out and said she wanted my thoughts on this, so here is some.
Yes!
I do not come to this with nostalgia glasses. I somehow never saw it at the time. The first time I watched it was in 2020. I knew it had this huge cult following, so I expected I would like it, and I was right. This thing rules. Incredibly smart and funny and clever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about incredibly smart and funny and clever, but I go on. Insane that anyone watching it wouldn't understand the product placement jokes. That I do agree with.
Yep, 100%.
I do agree about the Parker Posey Alan Cumming reveal at the end being a really sour note, but other than that, I love it. The music is so consistently good. The performances are perfect. The campy aesthetic is amazing. One of the reviews you read compared them to the Spice Girls, and now I really want you to do an episode on Spice World, another film I didn't see at the time. But I watched it earlier this year, and it is truly a masterpiece. One of the funniest films I've ever seen. Okay, bye.
Yeah. I mean, that's Scott in a nutshell. Like,
having watched Spice World within the past couple of years, and obviously I have no nostalgia goggles. I just saw both of these movies for the first time in the past few years. Josie and the Pussycats, significantly better than Spice World to me.
Can I tell you something? I've never seen Spice World.
Can I tell you something? I am actually so excited that I just bought Spice World on DVD because it's a movie Giselle likes. So she never asked me to, but I'm like, Giselle loves this movie. I should try and get it on DVD because I'm still obsessed with home media. And Gab, can I tell you, this has been one of the hardest fucking movies to find on DVD in the world to me.
Interesting.
You know what happens sometimes too? A movie that I think is really hard to find on DVD, once I find it, I see literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, here's a random one I'm going to bring up. Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. It's a random ass cartoon movie I saw in my childhood. I finally found this thing on DVD in one of those really old, like clamshell DVDs. And once I had this thing, I was like, oh, great. Then all of a sudden I see it like fucking Walmart. I'm like, what the fuck? This was everywhere this whole time?
Wait, I have a question. You said one of those old clamshell DVDs. How do DVDs come today?
Well, they come more in like that regular case, whereas I guess what I'm talking about is the one where it has the tab that folds out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
I can go get some. It's not worth doing on this podcast.
No, but
after the podcast, I'll enlighten you more on the two versions of DVDs.
Okay. Anyway.
I don't think clamshell was the right terminology anyway.
That's fine. Anyway, listen, Scott, I appreciate that. That's really great of you. No surprises. I knew you were going to love that. I knew you were going to love the music. The music is phenomenal. Definitely campy, definitely right up your alley. But the most important thing to me was that I was right that the music is fucking awesome.
If the music came on, like if Giselle was playing her music in the car and this song came on, like three little words?
Three small words. Three small words.
If it came on, I wouldn't be mad at it.
But that's all of the music is good. And like I said, a lot of the music on the soundtrack isn't even in the movie. So it's just all very good.
I think the soundtrack was definitely more successful than the actual movie, but
oh yeah.
We already addressed that.
Yeah.
The next email from Pedro Enrique. I'm back again for real this time. Maybe, I don't know. Thoughts on Sleepless in Seattle in your name?
Oh, Jesus
it's one
Christ.
Of
this is ancient history.
Wow, Gab, that is harsh.
Sorry. All right. What do you have to say, Pedro?
He's the one person that we know for certain is watching every one of these goddamn movies.
I know.
It takes him time to get there.
It's just so far in the past.
Hey, Dylan and Gab, Pedro here. Remember when I used to send emails every week when I could write overly long and verbose essays on Nicolas Cage? Those were fun times. Before my personal life went to hell and I had less weekly headaches, teaching teenagers is no fun. Anyways, I managed to secure a little bit of time for myself today, so on to the movies I was able to watch this week. First, Sleepless in Seattle. This one is actually tougher to judge than I remembered. It had been a while since I watched. I forgot a lot. I will never get over this 8-year-old kid going, "She's a hoe. My dad's been captured by a hoe." Died laughing. This may be a weird criticism, but there are way too many, quote, musical sequences in the film. Some are good, but when one is followed directly by another, it just feels weird. Minutes just looking at the sad faces of Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan while reading the lyrics to songs. I don't know. I also had forgotten the very important detail of Annie hiring a private detective to find out about Sam. I guess You've Got Mail was revenge for this. In one, Meg Ryan stalks Hanks. In the other, Hanks catfishes Ryan and demolishes her mother's store. The positive, this film is way better written than You've Got Mail, and Hanks and Ryan are such wonderful performers and help elevate an already good script. It does not have a lot of comedy, but the little it has was very funny, in my opinion. The negative, it is truly a film that could only happen in the 90s. The radio call, letters, the use of a physical map. If it was made today, that kid would be posting on Reddit, r/TIFU, which I believe is Today I Fucked Up, or r/Am I the Asshole? Also, the characters are very stereotyped because of their gender. It's more funny than bad, but it does feel outdated. It was hard to judge, but I do agree with Gab and honestly believe this movie is worth watching before you die. With that
Thank
said,
you.
I still believe When Harry Met Sally is truly Nora Ephron's best. I think we all agree with that. But
Yeah.
also, to answer the question, was Jonah an asshole? Before teaching, I would have told you that children can't be assholes. They're too innocent. Now, as someone who has worked in multiple schools, I can guarantee you children can absolutely be assholes and extremely mean. So yes, he was an asshole. But hey, it all worked to the end. Also, great speech on love during the episode, Dylan. That was lovely.
Yes, it was lovely. Love is a TV show, not a movie.
Did I say that?
You did, and it was profound and beautiful.
I'm always amazed when I say something that was somewhat worth remembering. On to what Pedro was saying now. Your name. So generally when I write these reviews, I watch most of the films on the same day, and I had to say, as much as I love Sleepless in Seattle, going from that to Your Name was like going from playing Mario Kart and then actually trying to drive a Formula One car. I had already watched this movie last year in preparation for a writing project. I absolutely love this movie. I already love anime, so I've always been partial to Japanese animation. Gav's shaking her head at you. The movie is just perfect from top to bottom. The animation, the writing, the comedy, the out of nowhere loud music. It's the second time I've watched it, and I still cried like a baby during the final 20 minutes. This is absolutely a movie worth watching before you die. Bummer that Gab didn't enjoy it as much. I guess she's just too dumb to get it. No, he didn't say that part.
He wouldn't be wrong if he did say it. Nope, absolutely not. Sorry.
I hope someday you give it another chance.
Yep.
P.S. That's a no. P.S. About Dragon Ball, it is not just yelling. It's also a 20-episode training montage where they unlock the power to yell with even more power. I still love the show, but if you want to get into Dragon Ball, just watch Dragon Ball Kai. The original was 291 episodes, while the abridged Kai version is 167. Relatively short, another anime, One Piece, has already passed over 1,000 episodes.
Wow.
1,000 episodes. That's like watching a soap opera by that point. I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't commit to something without an ending. I'm watching I'm catching up on Law and Order right now, and I'm up to season 18, but I'm like, but you know what? There's an end in sight. I know that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So based on these films, here goes my question for the week. Do you think you could fall in love with your partner had you met through body swap? Or would you rather stalk them and meet them for 2 minutes in the Empire State Building?
Stalk and meet.
I think body swap.
That
you're more likely to actually get to know the person through the body swap.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. You're an idiot.
Okay, that seems a bit like an overreaction.
Maybe.
I guess now we know that Gab is either going to stalk and meet or stalk and murder.
Yeah. Yes. Honestly, there's no way I'm switching bodies with somebody. No, you know what it is? I feel like I'll say two things about this. Number one, there's a level of intimacy that comes with getting to know somebody through like interacting with them. Yeah. Versus like being in their body. And number two.
Wait. You think there's a greater level of intimacy from stalking and watching them from afar than there is from actually experiencing their life?
No, I'm just saying, forget the stalking for a minute. When you finally do
meet them... No, Gab, the question specifically said stalk or body swap. There is no gray room here.
Yeah, all right, I'm still going with stalk. My second thing I was going to say was that, and it also won't work because you're making me commit to the stalking part. But I just feel like after you stalk, you get to meet them and then you get to ask questions and talk to them. And
it specifically said meet them for 2 minutes in the Empire State Building.
Okay, but then what about after that? What do I have to go home?
You're erased from existence after that. I don't know. He didn't specify.
Well, that's why I'm saying if we're following the laws of Sleepless in Seattle, we go out to dinner afterward where we get to fucking talk.
You don't know that they went out to dinner afterwards.
Also, I'm going to say it, and every woman listening to this podcast is thinking it. I don't get balls. I wouldn't want balls hanging off of my body, just floating around. I don't want to experience that. I'd rather just continue to be myself and stalk people.
Men don't even want their balls dangling there. They're so fragile. They're just sitting there waiting to get hit.
I just don't want that life.
Okay. I didn't expect that to be the reason, but sure.
That's a bit major player. What would you say? Body swap, you fucking weirdo?
I mean, I did say that already. By the way, you're
Okay.
calling me the weirdo. You're like, I would just stalk someone like a normal person.
Honestly, Dylan, that is normal. What do you think social media is?
Neither one is normal. Neither one is
No,
normal.
that's no. Something people do every day or Freaky Friday. Nope.
Cyber
ain't
stalking
wrong.
and actual stalking, not the same thing. Also, just saying.
Well, we just said if Sleepless in Seattle were made today. Oh no, we said that about something else. But we said in the episode, if Sleepless in Seattle had been made today, it would have been via the internet. So
that was just how he
you.
would have gone viral. That's not. She still would have stalked him old school.
No, she wouldn't have.
She would have done both. She couldn't
Yeah.
contain it. She would have cyber stalked until she felt the need to regular stalk, and
Until
then she
it
would have
wasn't
killed
enough.
him. Yes, exactly.
Well, that's what I'm all about. Are you going to expand upon your body swap, or are you just going to be a weirdo?
No, I believe I said enough. I think it is more intimate. You get to know that person better from experiencing their life.
You just don't want to have balls anymore.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Yep, you figured it out. Let's finish up Pedro's email. I really do hope I can send more emails. Finally, the semester in the school I work at is ending, and I may finally get some free time. So I'll finally be able to sleep like a normal person. Until then, see you next time.
Bless. Thanks, Pedro.
All right, we've got something from Keen Machine now. It's an update from the front. He sent a clip of background music, but it opened an ad, so now I look like a fool. Ignore this ad. I guess this is it.
I can't hear anything.
It's gunfire and such. Okay. Greetings, Dylan and Gab. An update from the front. Well, our numbers have oh, there it is. Can you hear it now? The gunshots and such?
No.
No, nothing.
No, truly nothing.
I'm holding it directly up to the microphone. Okay, whatever.
Okay.
While our numbers have dwindled, the fight rages on. Between Scotty and myself, we've managed to hold down the fort via comments and emails, respectively. We miss Trevor, Pedro, your fat face, and the others desperately. Good news, Pedro has returned. Nevertheless, we are gaining ground against the enemy, those encroaching thoughts that thrive on silence. Rest assured, all is not quiet on the Wednesday front, as long as we have something to say about it. And now for your requested reports. Our first question. Let us know what your real name is and what people call you by accident. You already know my real name, but for any stalkers, agents, or other future researchers desperate for some Keen Machine lore, my first name is Cameron. I have been called many things that are not my real name. Carson, Caleb, Carter, Camera. I want Camera explained.
Camera.
Not to mention the time in 8th grade when my science teacher accidentally called me by the name of my sworn middle school nemesis and then apologized profusely, recognizing the grave error he had committed. I also want to know more about your sworn middle school nemesis.
Yeah.
Did he call you Camera? Is that why it happened?
Where is he now? In jail?
6 feet underground. Question 2. What was my SAT score? I only took the test once, and honestly, I have no recollection of what my score was. However, at the end of the day, I'm here now commenting on your podcast, so I'd say the journey was worth it. Thank you, standardized testing, for another directly correlated success.
Amazing.
Finally, what is your bank routing number? I'll just keep these digits to myself. As for Josie and the Pussycats, never heard of it before last week, but I like the meta theme they seem to have going on, and any film that draws you back to Wag the Dog must be a winner. I gotta side with Gab on this one. Keep it keen, Keen Machine.
Love it.
Yeah. You won Gab over the moment you said side with Gab.
Yeah. It's that easy, guys. It's that easy.
Venmo's and siding with her. That's all it takes.
Yeah. I'm a simple gal.
Now we got Scotty Cameron on The Fugitive.
Okay.
Hey, Dylan and Gab, great show as always. The Fugitive is absolutely a movie to watch before you die. This is not surprising that I would come to that conclusion when I deduced it was an episode. When I deduced it was an upcoming episode during the Your Name episode, because I accidentally called Harrison Ford Tommy Lee Jones. Anyway, Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford absolutely give it their best, and it makes the film all the more exhilarating. The I don't care scene lives in my head, followed by the waterfall jump. You know, if that was Tom Cruise instead of Harrison Ford, they wouldn't have used a dummy, and Cruise would have just jumped into the waterfall himself. Just look at the crazy things that man does for the Mission Impossible movies. Riding motorcycles off of cliffs, hanging from the side of a plane, and scaling the Burj Khalifa. He tried to slip me up with the name of that, but I remembered it.
Burj Khalifa.
A little sidetracked, but that came to mind since Cruise was mentioned as a contender for Kimball in a 2023 remake of The Fugitive in the episode. I don't recall saying that.
Yeah, I listened to it this morning. We talked about how Harrison Ford has charisma, and that's why he's so good. And Tom Cruise has charisma as well. Just trust me.
I definitely don't like Tom Cruise as much as Harrison Ford, but I get what we were saying, I guess.
The bottom line is he doesn't have to be a great actor because he's so charismatic.
True. Yeah, The Fugitive is a great movie, and I liked that moment at the end where Gerard uncuffs Kimball. Also, Tom Cruise can be a really good actor sometimes. I feel like he's not always, but
I hate him.
Giselle hates him too.
Oh my God, I love her so much. I hate him. I hate him.
There's nobody better at running on camera, though. He makes the CrossFit people look slow when he runs on camera.
Yeah, because he's so fucking short.
Maybe that's what it is. The two fastest looking runners I've ever seen in the movies, him and Bryan Cranston in Godzilla.
Interesting.
They look great running. Continuing. I haven't ever seen the show the film is based on, but I've been meaning to watch it along with U.S. Marshals because I like the film so much. Usually when I like a film based on a show, I seek out the show to see what it's like. In this case, I just haven't gone around to it yet. I watched the Mission Impossible show and many of the Star Trek shows. Funny enough, the late Leonard Nimoy was in both the original Mission Impossible and Star Trek shows. Did not know that. I did know he was in Star Trek. I didn't know the Mission Impossible thing. The funny thing is, I also saw this movie with my grandma, albeit in my case, it was just on TV, and I wanted to watch it because I had heard good things about it from places like WatchMojo. WatchMojo is partially to blame for the reason I was expecting moments from the Jack Ryan movies, where Ford plays the titular character, such as Ford dangling from a helicopter in Clear and Present Danger, since I had seen so many WatchMojo videos with clips from those Harrison Ford movies. A funny bit of trivia about The Fugitive and the Jack Ryan movie is... Okay, I was just making sure. I was like, this is the same thing I read during the comments, is it? Is that The Fugitive came out in between both of Ford's outings as Jack Ryan, with Patriot Games coming out in 92, The Fugitive in 93, and Clear and Present Danger in 94. A little Star Wars factoid is that James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, plays CIA Director James Greer in both of Ford's Jack Ryan movies, as well as The Hunt for Red October, where Alec Baldwin played Jack Ryan. Enough talk about the Ryan-verse and its connections to Star Wars and The Fugitive. Last thing, my Jamie duties. The difference between green screens and blue screens is that green screens have much higher luminosities than blue screens, which makes them brighter. That makes green screen better suited for daytime scenes or scenes that require the scenery to be lit up brightly. Meanwhile, blue screens are better suited for nighttime scenes and ones that require a darker environment. So that's where the applications come into play. That's all, folks. And in case I don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Scotty.
Thank you very much, Scotty. I was really hoping you were going to answer that question for us.
That was a very fun fact about the green and blue screen thing. That solved a thing for me. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, you tried to act like you knew it, but you didn't know
it. The secret, and I learned this when I worked at a job in a call center, is they don't know what you don't know, Gab.
That's true.
Fake it till you make it.
Very true.
I've never even seen a movie. Game Machine for Into the Spider-Verse. Greetings, Dylan, Gab, and special guest Corey. Very excited to listen to this week's episode about a film I've actually seen, Into the Spider-Verse. We announced that we were doing Into the Spider-Verse in the last episode. Gab always looks so confused when you do this Game Machine. She looks so confused.
I'm so lost, but okay. So he hasn't heard the episode yet.
No,
Nobody's
the episode
heard
comes
the episode
out.
yet.
Yes, on Friday.
I haven't even heard it yet. Okay.
Very excited to listen. You were there, Gab. You heard it. Very excited to listen to this week's episode about a film I've seen, Into the Spider-Verse. Of course, by the time you're reading this email aloud, I will have already heard the podcast. So good job to all. Will Gab's history of rejecting animation finally be foiled? Will our guest be able to defend his pick? Will Dylan even read the mail this week? Find out right after this. Keep it keen, Keen Machine.
Cute.
I did read the mail. And now that the mail is done, Gab, and it's been a lot of mail, should we get to some verdicts?
Spider-Verse.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death. How does this work? Am I just going to say what I think?
Well, you go first because it was your pick, so we already know what you think, but tie it up with a bow.
All right, well, listen, I think I used to think that the best animated movie of all time was Shrek. Now, that's probably not true, but Shrek is up there for me. But I think this is the greatest animated movie of all time. I think it's visually stunning. I think, like you said, Dylan, New York City, one of you said, New York City looks beautiful in it, frame by frame, just like every little detail. I mean, Miles Morales is wearing the Jordan 1s the whole time. Like, and he's really rocking Jordans. And they just like everything looks legit, nothing looks corny. And the story is great. There's something in it for everybody. I mean, like, you could be somebody who doesn't like give a shit about superhero movies or cartoons or anything animated and love this movie. You could, there's something relatable in it for everybody. I think it's honestly in my top 5 best movies of all time. And I think everybody needs to watch this movie. I also think it is the best Spider-Man movie that has been made. Like, Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire, I actually did like it. There were a couple of things that were different from when we were kids from the cartoon, right? Like, Spider-Man didn't have webs coming out of his arms, right? But I thought the movie was cool. I love seeing Spider-Man, who was like my favorite as a kid. Spider-Man 2 was also pretty good. Doc Ock. I think the villains made those movies really cool, actually. Like Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. Shout out to the Indiana Jones episode, Alfred Molina. But yeah, I think this is oh, and I love Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland is actually a great Spider-Man, but I think this is the best Spider-Man movie that has ever been made. And that's my opinion.
I just had to point out how critical Gab's being over there. She's giving the hand signals for like this hand's just going too
no,
long.
no. I was giving the hand signals for Doc Ock because Corey always does the
when he goes, or I'll peel the flesh off her bones, and then he does like
click, click.
He does what everybody does when they're holding tongs.
Perhaps I misread the timing of that because I thought Gab was going, this motherfucker talking too much. Like, I was like,
no.
when this is over, is Gab going to text me and be like, cut half of Corey's shit out?
No, I thought he was doing great. No, but we always do. I don't remember I've never seen it, but you started doing that. Like, I'll peel the flesh from her bones. Click, click, click. So anytime he says Doc Ock, I go click, click, click.
He does do that a lot in the movie, I feel like.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go next because I feel like my answer is also obvious. I think that this is a movie to watch before you die. I think this movie is so good that if not for Corey being here as a guest wanting to do this movie, I would have been like, no, this movie's way too obvious. We should not be doing this.
Wow.
So
That's legit.
there are many movies that I want to do that I'm like, is it too obvious? Perhaps. Like, I know, Gab, you've never seen Jaws or The Goonies or recent mentions, and I'm like, fuck, we should do those. And I'm like, no, you can't do Jaws or The Goonies. Those are staples. Like,
yeah.
I felt that way about Lost Boys, to be honest. Like, I had the DVD and I love that movie.
I feel like Lost Boys is more of like a cult classic. But I'm glad to hear you say that it's so good.
Goonies.
Huh?
So is The Goonies.
So maybe I'm
this cult?
Huh?
Classic?
I think The Goonies is a cult classic.
I thought The Goonies was like a movie that everybody saw, and
that's what I thought too.
Listener, if you've made it this far, let us know. Goonies or no Goonies?
If you've made it through this much conversation of accidental poopings, let us know. Have you pooped your pants? And what do you think of The Goonies?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know.
Gab, we need your verdict still, which I'm not going to make a prediction about, but I think I can feel.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. This movie has all the ingredients of a movie that I would hate. And yet, I came out of it initially thinking that I loved it because I loved watching you watch it. And I'm saying that to Corey, not Dylan. I didn't see Dylan watch it. I loved watching you watch it. And I loved the understanding of how much it meant to you and of therefore how much it meant to other people, how incredible it feels to be like represented in a way that maybe like you weren't represented previously, and relating to a character that maybe was once portrayed by somebody you didn't really relate to, very similar to, my feelings around the Jedi. And I felt very connected to you, and it was just like, it was meaningful to me in that way. But then once the movie ended and I kind of was back to reality, I was like, I loved that movie. Like, even if I had watched it by myself in another dimension where we had never met, I would have still loved that movie. I think it was funny. It was beautifully done. I loved the humor. I loved the storylines. I loved the mission that they were on to save the world. I loved the message that was being portrayed. I just thought it was excellent top to bottom. And yeah, I loved it. And I'm really looking forward to going and seeing the sequel on Friday.
Say the words, Gab.
This is a motherfucking movie to watch before you die.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
it's a movie to watch before you shit your pants too, by the way. Don't watch it having shit your pants.
Don't hold a shit this entire time. Shit before the movie starts.
Yes, yeah. That's our watcher
Or
recommendation.
kindly take the shit out of your pants and stick it in your backpack until the movie's over.
Yes, you can always place it somewhere because it's too important. You don't want to miss any of the movie. Place it in a pocket, place it in a backpack, wherever you got to put this thing.
Yeah. Listen, you deal with it after the movie is what we're saying.
Jesus Christ. Well, I do feel like this one was too obvious, but I'm very glad that it did overcome your, what's the word I'm looking for here? Your
biases.
Yes, perfect.
Notions.
Yeah.
We will need an update next week on what you thought of the sequel.
Absolutely.
Gab, do we know what we're doing next week?
I don't know whose choice it is. I think it's your choice.
All right, then I'll have to figure that out later because I did not expect that.
Yeah.
We should do the things that we do now and thank Corey for coming on as our guest.
Thank you so much for coming on as our guest.
Thank you for having me. And you guys are great. I love the show. I listen to it all the time. I watch a bunch of movies that I would not otherwise watch because of you guys.
And you come on anytime I summon you.
Yeah, I'm like Shenron. It's a Dragon Ball Z reference.
I was picturing Gav more like with like a pentagram and like a circle casting a spell to summon Corey.
Yeah. I use the Ouija board, actually.
Of course.
Yeah.
I will have in the description below, Corey has a podcast, which that's not just me saying it. It's the name of his podcast. Corey has a podcast. So I'll have the link for that. And I do also have a link for like a very short clip that just describes the detail of the art in Into the Spider-Verse, which I think is really cool. It's like 2 minutes.
Perfect. Love that.
Nice. I love it.
And then, listener, we want to hear from you. If you have movie recommendations, we want to know what you think about this movie, what you think about the sequel, what you think about Frost Valley, shitting your pants, pissing your pants, and this situation with the Titanic submersive, the Titan.
Have you pooped your pants particularly?
Yeah. But also, like, how crazy is this submarine situation? So give us all of your information, your thoughts, your feelings on all of that. You can email us at movies-to-watch-before-you-die@gmail.com. You can send us a voice note at anchor.fm/movies-to-watch. And of course, it would be a wonderful, wonderful service to me if you would Venmo me a little bit of cash. I am destitute and I could really use it.
Thank you for opening up your ear holes and keep your butthole closed.
Wow, that's our new sign off.
Oh God, I hope not permanently.
Thank you. Anything?
Night. Keep your butthole tight.
That's even better. That's the sign off.
That's the sign off.
This kid can turn himself invisible. Watch this. He can do it now.
I can't do it on command.
He can't do it on command, but it is cool. Show him the zappy thing, Miles.
Can't do it on command.
He can't do it on command, but he can do so much more. Like what else do you do?
Just those two things.
Just those two things.